going to open up the floor to questions now. I'm going to run around with the microphone if that's okay, because we are filming this. But first, before you guys get the opportunity, I'd like to ask a quick question, if that's okay. This first one's for you, Jeremy. A lot of your research has gone from the urban planning environment into the office. Do you think that's a one-way street, or do you think there's potential for kind of new office initiatives to kind of implement it into the urban environments as well?
I don't think it's a one-way street. I think if you go back to Bürolandschaft, Bürolandschaft in the 1950s in Germany, in the way they were using planting and asymmetric spaces, that fed back into planning kind of town squares and architectural spaces. There's always been a two-way street. I think the problem is that office design has become, for a long time, obsessed with efficiency and metrics, and it was driven by a very kind of engineering-led approach to kind of, we've got this number of people and we've got this net usable space and we can fit them in. And it was putting people like cogs into a machine without really understanding what people need. I mean, in some environments, people need high levels of adjacency and intensity, and a newsroom, for example, and people need to be able to see each other and talk to each other and know what's going on, or a sales team. But in other cases, especially in government, I've seen senior civil servants who really need to get their head down and get the policy right. Sitting in open plan spaces was just totally inappropriate. So I think that what urban planning can learn from office space is how 200 or 300 people can work cohesively in a space and be socially cohesive and commercially effective. But equally, I think that urban planning has a lot of clues for how office communities need to work together, and not just contemporary urban planning. I mean, architects I know are looking at bridge communities, medieval hilltop towns, anywhere where 200 or 300 people are trying to coexist.
Thank you. If you do have any questions, if you could raise your hand, and then I can wander around to you just after I ask my next question to Kim. So,
can I say something before you ask another question?
you may.
Because
yes.
I think in some things you say I actually disagree with. Because I think we
it happens.
That's why we're here. I think that's why they put us together. I think we are becoming increasingly, because of social networking, etc., and younger generations are being encouraged to be more and more extroverted. So it's absolutely important that we know how to focus, and we know that we take glory in being introverts. But I think we also have to have a reason to go to the office. And with all the possibility that technology brings, that we can work anywhere. We don't have to be in the office. We can be an introvert at home, or in our cubby, or in our pajamas, or whatever. There's actually a backlash to that now, and people are finding they want to go someplace where other people are, and Starbucks is not doing it for them. So there are things like work clubs and workstations, and there's social networking sites that are bringing people together locally, physically in space, so that they can see other people, so they can. That is a collaborative environment, and all the research that we've done points to collaboration is the next thing. That there are not going to be that no stylistic device can take the place of supporting true collaboration. That all the highest paid, most knowledgeable, most kind of forward-thinking people are going to want to work together, that actually is the future. And that most offices, even the most conventional ones, are wondering, how can we get some of that? How can we keep our best people here? Because they could just as easily go there for banking, or there for, as you say, there's lots of choice. So everyone's trying to think, how can we keep our best people? And we certainly can't keep them by saying, guess what, kids? There's no more corner offices. Guess what? You're going to be, benching. Yeah. Sorry, but this is your spot, and you're going to have to face this person. There's got to be another way. So I would say, stay tuned for Neocon, because there's a huge unveiling by Herman Miller, which I'm told I can't actually talk about any more than that. But I think I think they are going to respond to exactly those kinds of needs, and we have responded to that as well. And I hope that we can fit in part of the giant city that you're talking about. I think we absolutely have thought about it in a smaller way.
Well, I mean, if you were to go into an Italian town like Siena, and obviously people go to work at intercity centres, or for different reasons. But if they were to say, right, well, you can go over there, and I want you to spend all day sitting on that bench there. Don't go over there.
Right,
Don't
exactly.
go down that street. Don't go and look at that cafe. Don't go up that hill. Just sit there all day. People would be absolutely outraged, but that's what we do in offices.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened with, once the walls came down, you're right, and we had this beautiful promise from the engineers and the architects who took away all the columns. Suddenly, there's all this space to make, as you say, make things efficient, to get the numbers right, and the numbers don't work for quality. And I think that's what we're finding too, because it doesn't work for productivity, actually, when people are unhappy and they don't want to be there. So there's got to be something else.
I mean, I have been into so many offices, and I'm interested to know what you think, where, they say, well, this is our collaborative zone, and people are sitting with their headphones on, sending an email to somebody 5 yards away.
Yeah.
And, you're thinking, well, that's just faux collaboration based on geographical proximity.
Yeah.
I'm all for collaboration, but let's have dedicated collaboration spaces, which are, walls you can write on, and instead of everyone sitting with their laptops trying to get an image on the wall, ubiquitous technology and the seamless mixing of the physical and the digital. But we haven't got that at the moment. We've got this kind of, we've kind of taken away the walls, and we've pushed everybody onto a bench, and
to pretend everyone will interact, we've given them some playful things like slides and whatever inflated things to sit on, and they can bounce around the office or play basketball. But that doesn't work either.
And everyone's yes. Anyway,
not working.
let's bring the audience in.
So this is something that the business that I'm with thinks about a lot, but it seems to me it's a lot about personal choice, because what we find is that no two people work the same on any given day. And actually, then we took it further and we think, actually, no one person works the same on any 2 consecutive days. So then it's about creating an environment that gives somebody choice as to how they feel on that day, whether they want to read that document or kind of look at people and have a voyeur day. I think that's easier for larger companies who can create a culture like that. How, given that the majority of businesses in London are smaller businesses, how does that translate from the larger corporate workplace where a board can instill that environment? How do the smaller businesses benefit from that kind of space and that choice?
That's really interesting. We learned in working with Herman Miller that for them, small is under 500 people. Small for us, I mean, that is not small in my world. That was quite shocking. So the scale, you're right, the scale of problem solving is completely different. The scale of strategy is completely different, because in a small office you can just try it. But if you've laid that out now for 500 or 2,000 people, it has, it needs another rhythm, it needs another scale.
Well, I think it's a very, very interesting point, but I absolutely, and the point of the Miller study, the Workscape study, was that we looked at companies with 60 people and we looked at companies with 6,000 people. Now, if you're Vodafone at Newbury, with a suite of buildings, and you have an out-of-town campus, this is the office of city. You've got to provide all the facilities, and therefore you've got to provide the diversity within the campus and the scale and the colour and the things that you would normally get. At the other end of the scale, smaller companies, it's all about the city as office, and location is absolutely everything. And I know lots of small companies who've taken quite small space for the location. It's near tubes, it's near Farringdon, or it's near Paddington, or it's near Victoria, and they have a board meeting with shareholders once a month. They don't build a boardroom. They go to the local restaurant, and there are plenty, and say, right, for the next year, these are our dates. Can we book the restaurant? And they're using the city.
Yeah.
If you go to the South Bank Centre, it's an incredible workplace. You know, you've got thousands of small businesses running their businesses from the foyer of the South Bank Centre because there's comfortable chairs, there's catering, and there's free Wi-Fi. You know, and they might go to the odd concert occasionally, which is the plan, but it's buzzy. So location is everything for the small firm, and the urban planning metaphor spills out into the city.
I think that's a really fine point, actually, because I think we all shouldn't try to duplicate what we have in the city.
Yeah.
There have been lots of very large-scale offices
Yeah.
which say, oh, we're going to let everyone eat here because it's, you know, then they won't leave and they can be doing more work, and that's collaboration too. And we're all smart, and we're slightly suspicious of that. So some of us will want to go out and buy our own lunch just because. So I think we shouldn't. The urban planning metaphors are really constructive. They've been very constructive for us in our work, in our design work as well. But there's also something that we acknowledge as we design products as well, which is that there's other things in the world besides the universe that you're creating. It is not a standalone place.
Yeah.
It's connected to the city. It's connected to other companies. It's connected globally now through technology. So we shouldn't try to duplicate what else is there. We can maybe fine-tune or respond to more locally what's there.
And physical collaboration, I think, has its place. But in an age where you can crowdsource and use digital technology and get 500 people to give you answers to your question, why just limit yourself to the people who are in the physical building that you happen to be in? So I think if you're really going to collaborate, there's kind of close-up collaboration with 2 or 3 experts or people you want to work with, and then there's the bigger frame of collaboration which can be done digitally. But you know, I hold to the assertion, and I'm interested to know whether people agree with me, that a lot of what you do every day is solo and considerative, even if you're working in a team. So I'm interested to know how many people would say that 50% of their work is doing stuff on their own at the screen, thinking. How many people would say 50? Yeah? How many people would say 70%? Yeah. How many people would say just 20%? Nobody. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
But do you want to be doing your solo-focused work in a pod, not seeing other people? I mean, of course you would say no. Of course you don't.